Hello, my beautiful humans. Welcome to a very fun video today. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about taking shrooms, also known as mushrooms, psilocybin, psychedelics, trippy drugs. They are definitely one of my favorite plant medicines to work with, whether you're doing it medicinally, whether you're doing it for learning, whether you're doing it for fun. I'm going to explain to you today what they're used for, how to take them, what happens when you take them, how to set up a space and why that's important, how to navigate the highs, how to navigate the lows, and then integration afterwards. So let's get into it. So first off, what they're used for. They're used for a lot of different things. They can be used for simply fun, which usually even when you do them just for fun in a safe space, you are still going to have some sort of like higher learning and epiphanies and realizations and visuals and things like that. But then you can also use them specifically for healing your physical body, healing traumas. A lot of amazing, incredible research and scientific studies are being done right now about the therapeutic powers of mushrooms, of shrooms, of psilocybin, and it's absolutely incredible. Also, they're used for learning and for understanding, for like lifting up the veil that we can carry, especially when we first come into life. We like forget our past lives, we forget our intuition, our connection with the universe and each other. And when you take shrooms, you start to like feel it again. You start to like have memories and realizations and all of these beautiful things. Your creativity comes back out, your connection with people. You can also take them to raise your self-awareness if you want to become more aware of yourself and also the universe. You can use them to connect with the universe, to connect with nature. I usually really recommend that people take them in nature during the day because it is like one of the coolest things ever. You will feel the earth. You will feel the energetic frequency of the earth, of the trees, of everything that's living. And you can, even if you want to really get into it, you can probably talk to it too. So that is always like really fun. So then how to take mushrooms. So you can take them, again, like I said, for fun. You can take them in a ceremony. Like you can have somebody facilitate a ceremony for you where it's specifically directed towards healing or towards having hallucinations, all different things. You can set up a ceremonial space with you and your friends and set up having a ceremony for your own selves. And I'll kind of get into that in a bit. You can also just take them as a microdose. So you can take a large amount and have like a full trip, or you can take a small amount, like a super small amount, like around 100 milligrams. And you can do what's called microdosing. And so this is actually something that's really common in other countries. When I was in South America, you could literally buy, like, it's almost like a bottle of vitamins. You could buy it on the shelf in like a lot of stores. Like I remember I bought it in a cafe, and it's like 3 or 4 months of microdosing where you usually do 5 days on, 2 days off, and you take about 100 milligrams per day. And this is a really, really, really powerful healing tool because what happens when you microdose, especially consistently, you can just microdose like one day and just like chill. That's amazing. But when you microdose over a long period of time, what's happening, what psilocybin and mushrooms they're doing is they are opening new pathways in your brain. So if we feel stuck, negativity and density and heavier emotions and our own like closedness and darkness, psilocybin can either make you face those things, which we'll talk about when I'm talking about navigating the lows. Also, which is just like a step through it. It's just a step to get out of it, to help you release from it, which could lead to a bit of an intense trip. So again, I'll explain that when we talk about how to navigate the lows. But also what usually happens, you have incredible highs, because what's happening is psilocybin and shrooms, they are opening new pathways in your mind for creativity, for love, for abundance, for joy. And so when you take microdoses consistently for a couple months, and a side note is that it's such a low dose, you do not feel it. You're not tripping every day. You're not seeing things every day. Most days, when I did this for 4 months, I never felt anything. Every once in a while, I would have a day where I'd be like, I'm just feeling like my energy open. I'm feeling really connected to the universe and nature, and I'm feeling like an extra little boost of like happiness and joy. And when that would happen, usually I would question. I'd be like, these might be the mushrooms a little bit, but I still didn't even feel that most days. So just so that you know, you don't microdose so that you're like constantly high. You don't microdose so that you're always feeling something. You're usually not actually feeling it at all. It's just like taking a vitamin, and what it does over time is it rewires your brain in a really, really incredible way. And it's a completely natural thing. It's a very intelligent medicine that is doing this for you, for your benefit, and you are subconsciously guiding it. Like, it's not like this crazy thing that's happening and it's like taking control over you. Like, no, it's very subtle, so incredibly subtle. And what it does is it releases like these feelings and these emotions of joy and connection and love and abundance and coming really present into the moment. All of these things that create healing. And it lets those channels in your mind flow. And then after 4 months, 3-4 months of them flowing consistently, you have now, once you're done with the microdose, created these channels in your mind that you get to keep. Like, and then for the rest of time, or for, for a while at least, you have these roads in your mind that then are used more often. And the way the brain works is that if I'm constantly every day telling myself that I hate myself, then I literally create a road in my brain that is like a big open highway that lets that thought come even more and flow even easier and constantly happening. But if I say to myself every day that I love myself, then I'm creating a whole different road, and the road of I hate myself is closing and getting smaller and happening less frequently. So that's how microdosing works. It opens up these roads of connection and joy and abundance because you're taking a natural plant medicine. You're actually feeling those things. Those things are actually happening, and therefore you're creating these pathways in your mind. And so it's a really, really incredible healing technique. It also, like, if you have all of these like roads in your mind that maybe are blocked with like really dense, heavy, negative energy of like sadness and traumas and PTSD, the psilocybin can like work its way into those and kind of open those and release the blocks, which, yes, of course, is going to cause you to go through some sadness, maybe like help you process your trauma, help you work through your PTSD. So make sure you're doing those things in a safe space. Make sure you have somebody to facilitate if that's what you need. I would definitely suggest having somebody to facilitate that's sober. So just so that you understand, there's all different ways to take shrooms. And then when it comes to, like, once you've decided if you want to do it ceremonial, for healing, for learning, for lifting the veil of reality and seeing your true self, just for fun with your friends, then you want to decide how much you want to take, okay? And this is like a weight thing. You can literally weigh them out. And a average dose a lot of people talk about is 3.5 grams. But hold up, everybody is different. Every single human being has a totally different sensitivity to everything that we consume, including psilocybin. So when my one friend could take 3.5 grams and be like having a trip, like a full trip, but like pretty chillin', I could take like 0.5 gram, 1 gram, and be at the same level as that person. So just that you understand, don't just like take 3.5 grams, especially if you're new to this. The way that, and that's like a full dose. A microdose is like 100 milligrams, like super tiny, even less. And the way that I 1010% suggest doing it is that if this is your first time, take a tiny little bit. Like, if you don't have anything to weigh that out, like one mushroom, like how do I do this? Like a small mushroom. And the top of the mushrooms, the caps, are actually more potent than the stems. They're like way more potent. So you could even just take a cap. Just take one. Give it like 15 to 30 minutes. Again, everybody's different. Everybody's body's different. The way your energy works, the way your physical size, all these things, your sensitivity, how open you are psychically, all of these things will affect what happens to you, or how fast things, how much you need, how fast it happens. So I would wait the first time at least like 30 minutes and see what happens, okay? And if you're like, oh, I don't feel a lot, then you can take a little bit more and keep doing that over increments of like 15 to 30 minutes, okay? Because what a trip is like, I'll kind of get more into the details in a moment, but to give you an overview is that you take them about maybe the first 10 to 20 minutes, you don't feel anything. You're like, haha, what's happening? What's gonna happen? And then all of a sudden you feel this like ramp up, and it's like kind of intense. Like you're at a peak and you're like, whoa, like I feel ungrounded. I feel like there's this weird energy in my body that I've never felt before, and I don't know how to navigate that. And that can be really fun. It can also be a little scary and intense. So, and then you kind of like level out, and you're like, and then you kind of go through like little ups and downs from there. Like, and by little ups and downs, I like mean like little moments where you're like, whoa, ooh, whoa, ooh. That's how I'll describe it. So, and then after the big intense moment, the very beginning, then when you level out, you'll usually start to have your hallucinations. But you could be having hallucinations in that big first curve. So what you want to do is if you take a whole bunch at once, then you're going to like skyrocket, and then like it's going to be really intense. But if you take a little bit here and there, it's going to be like woo, and then you take a little bit more, and it's like these tiny little bumps. And then everything's going to be a lot smoother. Instead of getting hit with the wave of psychedelics or the feeling that you get, it's like so much more easily navigated, and you're kind of just like going up and down. And so you want to just, especially if it's your first time, even if it's not your first time, for me, I still take them like this. I still take a tiny little bit, wait 20, 30 minutes, another tiny little bit, wait 20, 30 minutes, maybe another dose, maybe not. And by a tiny little bit, I mean like a mushroom, maybe two if they're small, because it just feels so much better for everything to be a lot smoother, rather than, whoa, this big, like you feel this like swelling of energy of this, the shrooms going through you. Also, let's get real for a second here. What is shrooms? They are an incredible healing plant medicine, but they can also cause you to purge, to release, okay? It's not usually going to happen. A very, very, very tiny percentage of people actually get sick. But what is happening is some people consider them food poisoning, and then that's what causing the hallucinations and stuff like that. So we're mainly talking about our stomachs here and nausea. That's like really your main thing that you might go through. But if you take them like this as well, slowly, you're not going to get hit with like a big punch of nausea. You might be like, interesting feeling in my stomach. And then that's it. And it's going to be so much more manageable and light. And now to talk a little bit about like, are they food poisoning? Are they not? A lot of people consider them to be. But if you don't know a lot about plant medicine, this is something that happens with not a lot, but some plant medicine, is that it's not only helping you work through things that are stuck in your energy system, your emotions, helping you connect to nature, helping you see visually fun hallucinations, and like purging the things that are stuck image-wise in your mind, or like things just look beautiful. But you can also, like, our energy, our emotions, our thoughts, our physical body, because our language defines them as different things, we like categorize them as different things in our mind. But really, they are all the same thing. They are all happening together. So emotions, thoughts, all of this stuff can get stuck physically in our body as well. And so what the mushrooms are doing is it's kind of helping to cleanse those things out, specifically of the stomach area. So you might have a great poop later, or you might feel physically nauseous. And so we want to avoid the nausea, okay? And by doing that, by taking a little bit at a time, easing your way into it. There's no reason to just go big or go home. Like, it's going to be intense. It's not going to feel great unless you are experienced and that's what works for you. Okay, so more about how to take them, how to physically eat them. You can do this in a number of ways. You can eat them raw, which from my experience tastes awful. And I don't love. Another thing that you can do is you can eat them with peanut butter. You can eat them with chocolate. Both of those things are like thick and heavy enough of a taste that they kind of neutralize the mushrooms and you don't taste them as much. You're still going to taste them a little bit. You can also put them in a smoothie and blend them. If you do that though, understand that your experience with them is going to be a lot different because you've almost like pre-chewed them and started to break them down some. So it's like, instead of what I talked about of it like 15 to 30 minutes and then you hit a big high and then it goes up and down. It's more like within like 5 to 10 minutes, you're like starting to feel it. And it's kind of a little bit more like it goes up and then it kind of is like a little bit more chill after that. But so just be warned. Another way you can take them is literally through pills, which again, that's usually a microdose. You find somebody that, you find a company that sells them. My favorite way to take them is with tea. Shout out to one of my really good friends and old roommates who showed me this trick. You can soak them in hot water and you can make tea out of them. You don't want like a whole cup of water, just like a little bit. And what happens is you rehydrate them. So then it just becomes like a moist little squishy mushroom and you just like chew it and eat it and swallow it, or you can drink it in the tea. Usually you want to chew it a little bit, but for some reason, the taste is a lot more minimal. And the hard thing about eating them raw is that they're dry and like dense. And so when you're breaking them up, they get like stuck in your teeth and then like the taste gets stuck in your teeth. So if you rehydrate them in a tea, which you want to let them soak for a couple minutes, what actually happens is that they're so much easier to chew and swallow quickly. And the taste is for some reason a lot less intense. So that is my main recommendation. And so now moving on to a really, really important step of taking mushrooms, of how to set up a space. Okay, I cannot stress enough how important this is. Like, if you're going to go through a journey like this, you want to make sure you feel like you are in a safe space. And even more importantly, I would argue, you want to make sure you are with safe people, or that you are with people that you feel safe. And so my recommendations for this is to do it during the day. Some people like to do shrooms during the night. I would recommend, especially for your first time, to do them during the day, because what happens, especially if you take enough to have hallucinations, is that at night in the darkness, you might start to see things. And we're trained from a young age to think that the darkness is scary. So you don't want your mind to be pulling things out of the darkness and seeing things in the darkness. In the daylight, you can see everything, and then things are just really pretty and fun, and it just feels more like, at least from my personal experience and what I would suggest. I would also suggest location-wise, you want to be somewhere you feel safe. You don't want to feel like someone's going to walk in on you, that you don't want them to walk in on you. You want to be able to have a space to be cozy, like maybe a bed or a couch or some blankets on the ground and some pillows. I love to make sure I have like a whole pillow set up with like soft blankets, because I joke that when I'm on shrooms, I'm grounded. And I don't actually mean that I'm like Zen grounded, because it's the opposite. It means that I'm literally on the ground. Like, I literally want to lay on the ground and I don't want to get up. So I highly recommend having a cozy place that you can like let your inner child out, just feel cozy and safe, touch the soft blankets and feel them. Yes. And so also, I love to have somewhere where I have access to nature, whether that's a backyard, whether I'm doing them on blankets in the woods with my friends where we know no one's going to walk up to us. Connecting with nature is one of the most incredible things to do on shrooms. You just feel one with the world. You feel like, creation finally makes sense to me, and I feel the earth, and I am a part of the earth, and the earth's a part of me, and it's just this incredible feeling, and it's healing. Nature literally, scientifically heals us by just existing in it. So when you're on this state in shrooms or psilocybin, you are just able to connect it more. You can open your psychic abilities more, you can open more to the universe, open more to nature, you feel more connected to your friends. Some people even talk about how they feel like they can be telepathic with their friends when they're both on mushrooms together. So just so you understand. Also, I would say that, again, the people, such a big point. Like, make sure that you legitimately feel into yourself if this is somebody that you feel safe with. I know a lot of people that like to do mushrooms alone. I don't personally like to do that because if I'm tripping and I get a little bit into the trip and I'm like, why do I feel like this? What am I seeing? Where's everybody? Like, I like to have people even if they're on shrooms or they're sober, whatever, that I feel like I can trust and feel safe with, and they can support me. And it's just like, it just keeps me more grounded. It makes me feel more safe to have people. And you want to make sure when you get into this state, especially when if it's your first time, it can feel a little vulnerable. And so you want to make sure you've done everything beforehand to make it to feel safe. You've got your cozy blankets, you've got your safe space, you've got your safe people, all the things. And so make sure you are genuinely feeling into yourself of, do I feel safe with these people? Do I trust these people? Do these people ever make me feel bad or bully me or say mean things to me? Are these people supportive and loving? Do they love to laugh? Are they free spirits? Are they chill? Doesn't mean they have to be all these things or not those things, but figure out what you like, what you feel safe with, and then surround yourself with those people. It could be one person, 10, whatever. If it's 10, make sure you have a good amount of space and different activities. So let's get into the activities. The other thing about how to set up a space is that you want to have activities. You want to have things to do. You could fully entertain yourself if you didn't set up any activities, but your journey and your trip will be so much more rewarding and enjoyable if you have something set up. If you want to do healing or something like that, or like a ceremony, I usually suggest to beforehand, before you take the shrooms, to set yourself up with some journal questions. Some easy, short questions. Not like necessarily easy. Like they could be, what is my life purpose? They could be, why do I feel disconnected from my dad? But I mean easy in the sense of like, don't make it like 17 paragraphs long with a bunch of hard words. Like your focus you will have a little bit of a hard time holding your focus. And so you want to make sure the question is just to the point. And that is such a wildly mind-blowing healing tool. If you go through a journey on psilocybin and you have questions for yourself about your deep healing or about your greatest joy, your biggest dreams, how to bring them into manifestation, what are they? What's my purpose? Any of that stuff. How can I have more fun? How can I heal this? Because you will have like this veil removed in this connection with the universe and nature and yourself. And even like connection with different people that aren't there with you. And you will be able to understand things more and see things more clearly. I do suggest if you do this to take a little bit of a lighter dose of mushrooms. If you take more, then sometimes it's a little bit easier to get distracted. And the more you take, the more hallucinations you will have as well. That's not an invitation to take a bunch. Again, take it easy, go slow, please. Do what you want, but that's my suggestion. Other activities are, and this can be whether it's a ceremony, whether it's a healing space, whether it's for fun, is to have things that make you feel like you can play, or create. Like I love to have colored pencils and a sketchbook or a notebook or paper. Again, keeping in mind of like your attention span when you're on shrooms is very short. So I wouldn't suggest necessarily having paint. It might get messy and you might get lost in it, which could be really fun. And so if that's for you, do it. But just a thought. That's why I like colored pencils. And don't judge yourself of like, oh, this has to be perfect. Just have fun. Bring out your inner child. Play, have fun. I also usually will have like, if I have a TV or a projector, I will have videos like queued up on YouTube. They could be educational. Usually they're not. Usually they're like fun things to look at, like beautiful, geometric, colorful shapes moving and you're just like, whoa. Yeah, beautiful things to look at. You want to be careful though. I wouldn't search these when you're on shrooms, because if you don't know what you're getting yourself into in a video, you will get sucked into it. You will get lost in it. And like that can be such a beautiful, healing, fun, playful experience. But if you're all of a sudden watching some AI weird thing that turns deer into monsters, or things that look like monsters, that's not going to feel great. So just a warning. Also, you can have music set up. This one's a little bit easier to navigate, I think, when you're on shrooms, to set up music. But again, it's nice to literally have your speaker on your phone connected, the playlist ready to hit play, and to make it dance music or make it lo-fi or make it chill, peaceful things, whatever you're in the mood for, having a couple playlists ready. Anything to feel, to play, to move, to lay on the ground and pet your fuzzy blanket to. Again, also activities could include nature. I love to lay in the grass and stare up at the clouds. Another wonderful activity can be conversations. This will probably naturally happen with the people that you're with, but I would encourage it going into it, having the awareness that like, if you talk to people about things and you tell them things, they tell you things, that is probably my favorite tool to expand my consciousness, my awareness, heal, work through things. It's not like I go in thinking like, oh, I'm gonna heal this thing with this person. It's just that like it'll naturally flow and come up, especially if you go in with the intention to communicate. When you're on psilocybin, you just feel this connection with these people. And so, especially if it's with people that you feel safe, things will just naturally flow in a really beautiful way. So yes, like that's kind of my different tips of how to create a space, specifically a safe space. And now to kind of give you a little bit more about like what happens when you take shrooms. Yeah, like I said, you kind of feel really connected to things. I already explained the different arcs. And what usually happens hallucination-wise, I feel like that's the one part I haven't touched on yet, is it's not like all of a sudden something rises, like a Mother Nature's being rises out of the ground and you're like seeing this thing there. It's not necessarily like that. What usually happens is like, say like the wall has a texture, like the texture will start to move and play. Yeah, it's a lot of things with like texture starting to play. I always like laugh because in the bathroom, I always like really, my hallucinations will really kick in, especially because I sit to pee. And usually like when you're on shrooms, it's the one place that you just kind of like sit, chill, and like don't think for a second, like your mind goes blank. And then all of a sudden you start to like, all like the patterns in the bathroom start to move and I kind of giggle to myself. But so yeah, if you want to, ramp up the hallucinations, try to just calm your mind and just like let things happen. I've also, when I've done it at night, I've seen like different things. I've seen the stars become images. Usually it's like something that's already there is like shifting. And so, yeah, if that makes sense. And now let's kind of get into navigating the highs and navigating the lows. I feel like I've talked a lot about navigating the highs, wanting to make sure you're easing the shrooms so that you don't get a super intense feelings, or so that like you don't get into super intense nausea. Make sure you just feel safe, just relax. There's nothing, you don't have to go into this with anything to do, especially if it's your first time. I would recommend setting up some activities and setting up a safe space with safe people, but you can just go in with no expectations and just let it happen. If you just lay on the ground with that fuzzy blanket the whole freaking time, amazing. You will feel amazing afterwards. You will afterwards have this whole new appreciation for life where you're just like, wow, I feel so grounded. I feel so at peace. I feel happy. I feel like things make sense. And you might have literally laid on the ground the whole time with that fuzzy blanket. So navigating the highs is pretty much just following your own intuition, not having expectations, don't force anything, and setting up a space. Navigating the lows, what that can look like. And this is me being fully honest. I don't want to ever keep anything from you guys. I also, of course, don't want to scare you, but I want to be honest. A lot of times, usually a low happens for two reasons. One, because you took way too much. And it's just overwhelming. And then therefore, like you kind of get lost and you don't know how to navigate. Another reason is because you can be in a really heavy place. You can, if you feel really emotionally heavy, like you're carrying a lot, like you're struggling a lot in your day-to-day life, I would not suggest doing shrooms for fun, because they will be incredibly healing, but you probably won't have fun. What you will have is you will have a transformational healing journey. And therefore, because that's what's going to happen, you are going to want to have somebody facilitate for you. Whether they have done shrooms a bunch and they can do it and facilitate, whether they take a tiny amount so they can facilitate, whether they're completely sober so they can facilitate. It's whatever you're both comfortable with. But yeah, I would just deeply, highly recommend to have somebody facilitate for you so that you don't get lost in the darkness and the heaviness and the emotions. No matter what, some people will just accidentally go into a harder trip because they go into it being like, oh yeah, I'm feeling crappy, but I'm trying to ignore that and I'm not going to pay attention to it. And my friends are doing this for fun and I want to do it too. And then they just naturally go into a darker trip. Especially too, if you are tripping with friends and whether you feel okay or you feel heavier and then you go off and you go be alone, that is usually a recipe for a darker trip, a heavier time. A lot of people that are feeling heavy and then they go and isolate themselves because maybe they're afraid to be seen, they don't want to affect their friends. What happens is that a lot of times they go through an ego death which this can be a beautiful thing. Like there's a lot of specific plant medicine that is to have an ego death, but it is a really intense thing. And what I mean by an ego death is like, your ego is based on everything that makes your identity, everything that you feel like is you. So like me being a YouTuber is an identity, me being a healer and an astrologer and a psychic, these are my identity. These are things that I've labeled myself on the human plane with human language to create my identity. And by having an identity, it makes my ego feel safe. Other things that can be part of your identity could be that, oh, I'm alone in the world, I am unworthy of love, nobody loves me, which are totally real, and check into that if those are part of your identity. But those could be subconsciously a part of our identity. And what we can do is that, like, if we're just totally side note from shrooms, if we are trying to heal those things and we don't know this part of like what our ego's nature is with this identity, then if I try to heal myself, say for example, part of my identity is that I grew up as a child feeling unworthy of love, and therefore as an adult I subconsciously feel unworthy of love. And then if I try to receive love and get into a relationship, then I genuinely struggle to, and maybe I don't know why, because it's a subconscious belief and identity and part of my ego. And so then if I try to open and receive love, my ego will, like, without me realizing it, sabotage any effort I make to try to feel worthy of love, because that belief that I am unworthy of love is part of my identity. And by having an identity, my ego feels safe. And so if I'm trying to change that part of my identity, it literally makes my ego feel shaky and unsafe and like it's dying. So it will sabotage my attempts to change that belief. So it's really good to realize that that is a thing, and to work with your beliefs and try to work with them slowly with affirmations over time. But so if you are having a lot of heavier beliefs and then you go into an intense trip, again, a lot of people naturally, once they're in that trip, go and isolate themselves. And then when they isolate themselves, they start to, like, it's like the psilocybin is working through their mind and their energy system to try to release all these heavier things. And so you're being confronted with all these heavier things that you've been carrying, and then you're releasing them, which could be beliefs that you've had your entire life, which then literally disassembles your identity, because these are beliefs that you had identified yourself with. And then your ego literally feels like it's dying and you literally feel like you're going through death. On the other end of this, it's an incredible life-changing thing, but it's intense. Nobody should rush into this. Nobody should do this unplanned and unforced and unfacilitated. This should be something that you are working towards, and not because you're like, yeah, I'm ready, let's kill my ego. I'm only saying that as a side note because I definitely was that person at one time. Because what I learned is that I was not ready to kill my ego. And so, stay humble about it, work through it slowly, have somebody facilitate it. It's a really intense thing to go through alone. So the point of what I'm saying is that the way to navigate lows is that be aware if you're feeling heavy, if you're feeling like you're really struggling and you're really sad and you have depression or things like that, you can totally do shrooms, but do them facilitated with a healer, with somebody to hold space for you and navigate you through this and hold you and love you. That will be incredibly life-changing and healing. I would not suggest doing them for fun with friends because it's probably not going to be fun. The other way is that if you happen to find yourself in this situation where maybe you didn't realize you were feeling heavy, maybe you were ignoring it, so you accidentally went into this situation with friends to have fun, and then you find yourself having a heavier trip, okay? Just by you listening to this and trying to remember this could literally save you in this moment. And if this happens to you, it can help you. You can remember that and be like, oh no, I know how to navigate this. What you want to do is you want to ask for help. You want to tell one of your friends, whether you feel safe with them or not. Ideally, you feel safe with them, but tell them, hey, I'm having a bad trip. I need help. Or like, if you don't feel safe with anybody, or maybe they're all tripping really intense, like figure out how to text somebody. Text somebody that you trust to come over and help you, to facilitate for you in that moment. The other thing that you can do if you really don't feel like you can do that, like you can ask for help, which I just want to remind you, you can. Everybody will want to help you. Everybody will want to hold space for you and love you. Even if they don't know what to do, they will hold you and love you and help you. But if you really don't feel like you can do that, then I want you to stay in the light, like literally physical light. Don't go into the darkness. Don't go alone. Stay with your friends. Stay in the light. You will be so much safer. You will have a much better time. You will be navigating things way better. Also, go out into nature. Go lay in the grass. Lay on the fuzzy blanket. Do things that make you feel safe. Don't go be alone and put yourself in the dark. Anything that makes you feel safe and better. Just keep following those one at a time. The fuzzy blanket, going and laying in the sunlight, going into the grass, asking a friend to hold you, asking if a friend wants to cuddle. All of these things are beautiful and you are worthy of, okay? So that is how to navigate if you're having lows. My last point to wrap up this video is integration. The last thing I would say that is good to know about shrooms is integration. You might not feel like you need any integration afterwards, but you might feel like you need a lot. But no matter what, you're going to come out of shrooms probably having either you're going to be like, wow, I'm so grounded and peaceful and so connected and I feel so much joy. That's beautiful. Let yourself feel that feeling, integrate that into your life. And just enjoy it, okay? That's integration too. And if you feel like you learned a lot, you learned something about a past life, about trauma, you had an ego death, be gentle with yourself afterwards. Take time, breathe, take time to journal. Even after you're done tripping, lay in the fuzzy blanket. Do things that make you feel safe and cozy and just feel. You can journal to try to process what you learned, or you can just lay there and feel. Don't distract yourself. Don't put on a movie. If you want to put on some light music that makes you feel good, that ideally doesn't have words to it. Don't read anything with words in it that's going to distract you. You could put on a YouTube video that makes you feel good of a rainy day in Japan or whatever. But just feel. Just let yourself lay there and feel your body. Feel into your body. Just let it do whatever it needs to do and just breathe. That is my best suggestion and advice for integrating. Also, of course, journaling is amazing too. And one last thing I did forget to say is that an average mushroom trip can last anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, okay? So it's usually around 8, but again, it depends on how much you take. Even if you take a small amount, it's usually still going to be around 8. So 8's kind of a good amount of hours to have planned. Usually if I do it, earlier afternoon with friends, and I make sure that it's going to be sunny the whole time. Or I have something set up inside for when it gets dark. And then also, if you do find yourself getting sick or being nauseous, which is very rare, you have to take a lot and you have to take them all at once, okay? Just breathe, just be in it. If you find your friend being sick, bring them water, bring them bread, something to absorb it. Kind of obvious things, I know, but that's really all that you can do. And again, like just taking them easier can keep you from getting sick. And if you have any questions, if you have any tips or advice for shrooms, if you have any stories, things that you learned, experiences, please share them in the comments below. I'm super curious. I really love bringing you guys this information. I really love your feedback and hearing your guys' experience. I'm really starting to grow a community here, and it's my goal, it's my intention. I'm loving it. If you need anything from me, you can reach out to me. I offer coaching, energy healings, astrology readings, all the beautiful things. My links are in my bio. But either way, I just really appreciate you being here and spending so much time with me. I hope you have a beautiful journey and trip if that's your plan. Much, much love.